has anybody here heard of Harvard University? You know, just to just to throw it out there, has anybody here heard of Harvard? Because Harvard has recently said no to the Trump administration's demands, okay? Has recently said no. And we're about to see what these demands are and what the Trump administration's response is to this, okay? So Trump administration freezes $2.2 billion in grants to Harvard over campus activism. Oops, hints, spoilers, okay? That's what it does. But what could warrant what could warrant such a reaction to the most prestigious, the oftentimes misaligned, infamy of famous, famey of this thing, right? All right. Yeah. So let's take a look at this. The federal government says it's freezing more than 2.2. Harvard pulled the base, but also demands were crazy, so they didn't have a lot of choice, to be fair, but still some credit. Yeah, sure. Foods, would you talk about global politics if it had little to do with America? Yeah, of course. I talk about Ukraine and Russia, no? The federal government says it's freezing more than 2.2 billion in grants and 60 million contracts to Harvard University after the institution said it would defy the Trump administration demands to limit activism on campus. Activism probably pertaining to uh, Gaza. All right. Trump administration issues demands on Harvard as conditions for billions in federal money. Okay. Yeah. In a letter to Harvard Friday, President Donald Trump's administration had called for broad government and leadership reforms at the university, as well as changes to its admissions policies. It also demanded the university audit views of diversity on campus and stop recognizing some student clubs. So this is the demands, okay? So DEI cuts, all right? Trump is effectively telling Harvard to do what it's been telling other departments to do, and what it's been telling other companies to do and other, law firms and all that stuff. Everything that it's been doing is in an effort to cut down on DEI, okay? Even though a lot of it is vague, nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. A lot of it is like, who knows what the fuck is happening, right? Who knows what to actually focus on when it comes to DEI because of how vague it is, right? So, cutting down all these clubs, cutting down on, all of this. Like, who the fuck cares about a student club? Like, nobody cares about that, right? Like, who cares if Harvard recognizes that the pro-Palestinian club is like there, or like the Gaza club, or like, the fucking black woman club of every single possible university and sorority and whatever, right? 80% of global politics still has to be done with America unless it's internal to a country like Hungary passing anti-LGBT constitutional amendment. See, that's what you mean. Okay, see, I can't read stuff like that. Okay. I need to read stuff before reading stuff out. Okay. But, nothing against you. A student protester stands in front of the statue of John Harvard, the first major benefactor of Harvard College, draped in the Palestinian flag at an encampment of students protesting against the war in Gaza at Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. On Monday, Harvard President Alan Garber, said the university would not bend to the government's demands. Okay, that's based. Okay. I think in a period of time where we see a lot of institutions and we see a lot of companies bending to the institution's demands, one thing I can think right off the top of my head is Charles Weiss. Is it Schwartz or is it Charles Weiss? Okay, I'm pretty sure it's Charles Weiss, right? Charles Schwab. No, not Schwab. Fuck. That's Ameritrade. Is it Paul Weiss? Okay, sorry, Paul Weiss. Paul Weiss. My bad, guys. Okay, so Paul Weiss. All right. So what has happened is Paul Weiss, a Democratic law firm, a private Democratic law firm, all right, who employs a lot of Democratic Party leaning lawyers, essentially um, had an executive order that targeted them specifically, and the executive order stated that we're going to be revoking your access to special privileges to the White House, special privileges to the federal government. And Weiss, the law firm, essentially catered to the Trump administration by folding. And they have offered free lawyer services to the Trump administration. And they have made a public statement saying, hey, we're not a Democratic law firm. We're not a Democratic law firm. Okay, we're a both sides law firm, which is exactly why we're offering Trump over $40 million in lawyers' fees for free. And again, all of this because they submitted to the court orders of President Trump, or should I say dictator Trump, King Trump, even, right? Which is really disappointing. Obviously, a very disappointing, decision for them to make. They could have fought it out in court, right? They have more than enough resources to do that. Keep in mind, they had it with proper authorization and review, and it was something you could apply for, and it was important because they represent many federal workers. Who? Who? What are you talking about? What do you mean by something you can apply for? I don't know what that means. Some alumni and faculty members implored Harvard to push back. True, the law firm in question. Yeah, but to apply for what? Decrying the government intervention as an attack on academic freedom. The government's letter is a dominance test, not an effort to fight anti-Semitism, said Kirsten Weld, a Harvard history professor and president of the campus chapter of the American Association of University Professors. If Harvard, the wealthiest university on the planet, accedes to these demands, the task force won't go away. It will simply return with additional demands. Just like a schoolyard bully, Weld said in a statement, Harvard must contest this patently unlawful attack in the course. Harvard is the 5th Ivy School League, we know. All right, so government security clearance. Yeah, but the whole entire point of the court order is to take them away, right? The entire point of the court order is to take away special access privileges, right? That's the entire point of it. Yeah, it's not. That's the point. Harvard did not comment beyond confirming it got the letter. Yep. The letter from the government, I'm assuming, calls for a ban on face masks, a demand that was also made at Columbia and targets pro-Palestinian protesters who have sometimes worn masks to hide their identities. Harvard also must clarify. I mean, like, could you really blame people for wearing masks to hide their identity? Could you really blame them? Especially in an era where we are seeing people like, that pro-Palestinian protester essentially getting disappeared and threatened to get deported, right? Like, would you really blame people to wear face masks in order to hide their identity? No, of course not, right? And, this is what they do. This is what the Trump administration does. They want to crack down on free speech. This is what it is. At the ending of the day, they want to keep on testing the waters and seeing how much they can get away with cracking down on free speech, right? And with Trump talking about deporting people to El Salvador that are American citizens, you can connect everything together. No? Wait, so you can arm yourself in America, but you can't wear a face mask? Well, Well, the Trump administration is telling Harvard that these pro-Palestinian these Harvard students shouldn't be wearing face masks because, assumedly, because they can identify their faces in order to capture them and then disappear them, right? It shouldn't be an issue really for them to not wear a mask. Loki, is so then they can disappear people, right? If they don't wear a mask, the Trump administration can identify people and disappear them. Just like, and they have precedents now over this, right? You can't blame people for not wearing a mask. You can't. And here's the deal, all right? Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter what the reasoning is, right? Because if the federal government, if you believe in the First Amendment, the federal government telling a college to restrict face masks is insane. That this does actually, restrict free expression, right? To wear a mask, to fly the Nazi flag, to fly any flag, to burn flags even, to say whatever you want, to express things in public, pride parades. These are all expressions of the First Amendment. They're free expression, free speech and expression. That's what they are. So the fact that the government would tell a university to do this, trying to extort a university to do this, is blatantly unconstitutional and unacceptable. Flat out, full out, no debate. Okay? Harvard also must clarify its campus speech policies that limit the time, place, and manner of protests and other activities. It's a regarded requirement, though it's not illegal, though. It is illegal. It's unconstitutional. Because it's unconstitutional, it's illegal. Because it's a government entity calling for the ban of something that is free expression, it's illegal. It is. It just simply is. It's a violation of the First Amendment. Academic departments at Harvard that fuel anti-Semitic harassment must be reviewed and changed to address bias and improve viewpoint diversity. The demands are generally less prescriptive than the Columbia Ultimatum, mostly calling for broad changes focused on lasting structural reforms. One of the alumni. This is an unlawful attack and an attempt to coerce Harvard by threatening the very lifeblood of the institution, which is its researchers, innovators, entrepreneurs, and scholars. A graduate of Harvard Divinity School. I don't even want to begin to search up what the fuck a divinity school is. The fuck? But yeah, there you go. There you go. I mean, like, in the end, this is just ultimately something, something to add on to the ever-growing exponential list of demands that the Trump administration is asking American American companies, agencies, and colleges to do, right? And there's no defending this. There is no defending this, okay? Even the executive orders that are targeting the law firms are unconstitutional and anti-free speech. Even these especially these targeting specific law firms by revoking their access is violating free speech. I'll even give an example of a precedent, okay? So in a court of law, they have ruled that the White House has to let AP in. So again, I talked about this before, okay? I talked about this before. The press has a fundamental right as part of the First Amendment to be there at White House press meetings. A judge ruled that AP should be there. AP is required to be there. In that case, how is it not a violation when all of this is happening, right? When essentially punishments are being given to colleges for not obeying an order from the Trump administration. For the record, okay? The grant, the 2.2 billion grant, that's not a privilege. Okay? That's not just a privilege. Taking it away when it's pre-existing is a punishment. So is it right for Trump to punish Harvard for something like this, especially if you believe in free speech? Now, here's the thing, okay? Maybe we can actually disagree. Maybe we can actually disagree whether or not this constitutes a violation of the free speech, whatever, right? But if this was happening to any other college, for example, if Joe Biden took away $2.2 billion away from Harvard for protesting Israel, what do you have? You have everybody, including the people on the left, that is debating on whether or not this is a violation of the First Amendment.